Welcome back to Choose Christ Completely. We hope this segment of your time is a blessing to you and your family and deepens your relationship with the Father. Well, we're here today, and over this past week, there was some interesting news delivered. So we're going to talk about aliens and UFOs.
All right.
I'm assuming, so Justin hasn't seen the videos, so you'll have to get on to him for that one.
I am, I've heard about them because obviously Cindy is far more culturally relevant than I am. I'm like, I could be a 90-year-old right now. Like, I don't care about it.
Yeah.
I don't watch it. I don't read it. I don't care. And so I don't know what's going on. Bring me up to speed.
So I guess part of Trump's campaign pledge was he was going to release the UFO files. As far as I remember, I mean,
Okay.
tell me if I'm wrong, but
I don't know.
that is what occurred over this past weekend. Might have been Thursday or Friday. Some of those, they started releasing some of those videos, that show anomalies and satellite footage and U.S. military footage of particular events.
Okay. When Cindy brought it up to me, she said, they just started releasing stuff, and she knew I wasn't going to be super interested in it. My question to her was, what are they trying to cover up? I kind of feel like that's what that's what they do. They have something big that's happened, and now they're trying to cover something up, and let's pop something bigger out in front of it. But
it's typically how it goes.
I mean, is there any of those videos or pictures that you saw that were like, man, that looks like what I would picture a space shuttle to look like?
The ones that I have seen, and I don't care that much enough to dig too deep into it, are just, light anomalies and stuff like that on like I said, satellite footage and probably some plane footage of what's below them. It's like the one I saw was some light in water, and it was able to do like a 90-degree turn at like 80 miles per hour, stuff like that, right?
Okay.
How much of it is real and how much of it is just the screwing up of technology that we use?
So there wasn't like a USS Enterprise look
No,
going
there was
on,
not.
nothing like that?
There was not.
Okay. I at some level, I'm always interested in conspiracies. I like to hear about aliens and all this kind of stuff. And actually, it's like at camp, it's one of those questions that teenagers ask every year. Every year, I guarantee it, one teenager is going to ask all of us who are in vocational ministry about aliens and what we think about aliens. And so it's really funny. I've had a developed opinion about this from a religious standpoint for like
Years.
Yeah, 15, 20 years. So what's your opinion like? Are they real? Aren't they real? Could they be real? What's your thoughts?
I don't quite know what the Bible would say about it, but so I don't know. I mean, if I think about it, since I don't know what the Bible would say about it, here's what I would think logically.
Okay.
And you could tell me whether the logic is wrong.
Okay.
In some ways, it is selfish of us to think that we are the only creation God created. But again, I have no biblical evidence of it. That's just my logic.
Okay. I wonder what's the listening audience's opinion. So obviously y'all are going to listen to mine and Brandon's opinion, but you really should share your opinion with us so that we can hear how cuckoo bananas you are too. I would say that's actually pretty good logic, Brandon.
Okay.
One of the things that I always say to a student that were to ask me this question, I do not believe that there's anything in the Bible that either includes that as a potential reality or on the other side of the same coin, there's nothing that really excludes it as being a part of reality as well. And so my answer is, if one day we decided and found out that aliens were real, it's not really going to shake my faith because it doesn't say one way or the other. Yeah. And if one day we just, we find out that the U.S. is cuckoo bananas and really was just trying to cover up something when they sent out all these weird files, then I'm also not going to be really shaken by it.
Well, you've seen it a lot on, and I think recent, because the beauty of AI and what we have now is it can recreate things in a quicker and much greater detail than before. But I don't know if you've seen the real depictions of what an angel would actually look like. It looks like an alien. I mean, it's wings everywhere and eyes everywhere. It's not... Angels don't look like us because they're not the same thing. Yeah. So I always wonder, these evidences of UFOs and things like that we have, is it alien or is it an angel that is being captured by our technology?
I think that's a great way to look at it.
The Nephilim, and now you can get down to some dark places. You're
really trying to get us trying to get the questions to be overloaded. You just mentioned a name that now we're going to get 5 questions on that one.
They are most likely some sort of alien creature, right? They don't look like us. They don't act like us.
Alien by definition of what an alien is, correct.
Not of this
not
earth.
Extraterrestrial.
Yes, just not of this earth.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, anyway.
I love a good alien movie.
Oh gosh. Well, I got into, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago. FX had us, Shawnee wanted to watch a show that was on Hulu, so we got it for a month, and I'm looking through there and I see Alien Earth or something like that, and it's supposed to take place in an alternate universe to what all the other aliens are. But I went down that rabbit hole. They're good. It's we have no clue what it would look like. I mean, shoot, for all we know, that they could show up and they look exactly like us, right? Mm-hmm.
I would recommend the movie Project Hail Mary.
Great movie.
You've seen it?
Great movie.
It was good, wasn't it? Yeah. It was so good.
Yeah.
Now, have you read the book?
No.
Oh, the book's pretty good too.
Yeah.
But that movie was
I heard the book and
fantastic.
the movie were pretty closely
tied. They were
tied.
Very close.
Which is part of the reason the movie. See, that's where filmmakers go wrong so often. They want to create their own creative liberties. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, the source material is too good. Why would you deviate from it?
Yeah, it was very close. Yeah. There were little bits of, it was even so close that there were hints in the movie that were 30-second hints. But you really needed to read the book to understand, to slow that hint down enough to understand what was going on behind the movie part of it. Yeah. It was very good. So there you go. There's a good alien movie.
That was one of our date night movies.
Was it?
It was a good one.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Shawnee does not like sci-fi stuff.
She
does not like it. So, the aliens, she would probably watch Aliens because it's a little bit different, but she was watching the bedroom, I was watching the living room, and she comes in, she's like, what in the world are you watching? But she liked it. That was one of them. She did like The Martian, if you ever watched The Martian, which was same filmmaker.
Yeah, I have not watched The Martian. Now, is that one based off the book as well?
I think so, yeah.
He have the book on that one too?
Yes.
I started reading the book, and we read the one Project Hail Mary first. Man, it was so captivating. I was like, I gotta get another one of his books.
Yeah.
No, not as captivating. I've heard still good reviews about it.
But it's a good movie at least to watch. He's got Damon, Matt Damon, and he's pretty much the only character. Ironically, it was a date night that I didn't have to pay for. So that was when the Pinnacle movie theater was opened up, and to businesses in the area, they had sent out free tickets. And so I got free tickets to their opening night sort of thing. Cool. But, I love Interstellar. Mm-hmm. And she's like, just watch it one time. She doesn't care.
Yeah. Interstellar is a good one.
No, it is. And very, how we understand science, very realistic.
Yeah. It's a very
outside
good
of the
one.
box that's created at the end. You know?
Yeah. Well, I would also go along the lines what you go on is that, spiritual realm exists as well.
Right.
And, reading the Bible, you can go back to like Daniel, and Daniel has interactions with the spiritual, and they are not what you would think, right? And so I would think the same thing is true, that if God's real, so are angels, and so are demons. They're all three are real. So I would even put like other things that we don't quite understand, but try to label things like ghost, things that are in the not extraterrestrial, but like paranormal world. I would put those in that same boat. Again, there's nothing in the Bible that includes them as reality, nothing that really excludes them. They probably are something spiritual you and I don't understand.
Right.
Now, I have to ask you this question, because Cindy did read me this tweet. Did you read, I'm going to sound stupid because I just forgot. The guy who owns Tesla.
Okay.
What's his name?
Elon Musk.
Okay. Did you read his tweet?
No.
He put out some kind of tweet about how many satellites they have up there, and if they were real, he would have evidence, and he would have tweeted about it because that would have been the most read tweet in the world.
There's probably a lot of truth to that.
So
right?
I wonder,
He probably has more insight into what's going on in the U.S. at any given time than the government does. So,
I would imagine so with all the satellites.
Oh yeah, well,
and car data
and his AI data, So
yeah, I just thought that was funny of him to say. So go read it.
But the conspiracy theories would say he's just covering it up.
Oh yeah,
because he's finding ways to profit off of alien technology. Or he's an alien himself.
He
right?
might be.
Yeah.
He might be. Did you ever watch Men in Black?
Oh yes.
Yes. Does Shawnee like that?
Yeah, she does like it. It's not sci-fi the same way.
Okay.
She just doesn't like space movies.
Okay. Yeah, Men in Black is great.
Yeah.
So maybe some of those people are like, the little alien that's running the robot inside the head.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on aliens?
I don't think so.
Okay. I guess we've.
Well, at least we know there's not necessarily biblical evidence one way or the other.
I don't think so.
At least not that you found.
If someone else has something they want to share with us, we'd love to read it and discuss it on the podcast. Like, please send it to us, and let's talk about it. We can really get nerdy all together.
I would be shocked if there's not a bunch of podcasts this week or this week or last week that are discussing something UFO and biblical in nature, right?
Yeah. We'll see what they all say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get started with our Bible study, if that's all right. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 7. I would argue that this is still part of the conclusion of the sermon. And so there's 3 parts of the conclusion, this being the second part. And I would also argue that Jesus uses the example of 2, and the 2s that he uses every time is the same 2 choices you have. So he's just continuing along those same lines.
Well, and as you mentioned in the sermon, I would argue this is some of the heaviest words that he uses.
Oh, dude. I don't know if you heard it, but I knew it was going to be like this. You could almost hear someone shuffle their feet in the room.
Yeah.
It was quiet. Mm-hmm. It was quiet in both rooms. I was like, woo-wee. But I understand, because the what he says in verse 23 is some of the most, just, wow, that has to be processed type words. So, all right, we're going to start with the English Standard Version. Matthew chapter 7, starting in verse 15.
You want me to read through 23?
Yes.
Okay. Beware of false prophets who came to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? So every tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruits is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus you will recognize them by their fruits. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty works in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.
The New Living Translation. Beware false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep, but are really vicious wolves. You can identify them by their fruit. That is, by the way they act. Can you pick grapes from a thorn bush or figs from a thistle? A good tree produces good fruit, and a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. So every tree that does not produce good fruit is chopped down and thrown into the fire. Yes, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions. Not everyone who calls out to me, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven. Only those who actually do the will of my Father in heaven will enter. On Judgment Day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, we prophesied in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and perform many miracles in your name. But I will reply, I never knew you. Get away from me, you who break God's law.
All right, then the message. Be wary of false preachers who smile a lot, dripping with practiced sincerity. Chances are they are out to rip you off some way or other. Don't be impressed with charisma. Look for character. Who preachers are is the main thing, not what they say. A genuine leader will never exploit your emotions or your pocketbook. These diseased trees with their bad apples are going to be chopped down and burned. Knowing the correct password, saying Master, Master, for instance, isn't going to get you anywhere with me. What is required is serious obedience, doing what my Father wills. I can see it now. At the final judgment, thousands strutting up to me and saying, Master, we preach the message. We bash the demons. Our super spiritual projects had everyone talking. And do you know what I'm going to say? You missed the boat. All you did was use me to make yourselves important. You don't impress me one bit. You're out of here.
Well, he did good on the second part.
Yeah.
The first part, man, you can hear some underlying issues coming out there, bud.
Yeah.
You probably should have just had a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Even though he said the word preachers, I would not exclude preachers, but I think preachers put too much emphasis on what they think their job is, and it's like, well, you're not either the prophet or the priest. Those are roles that Jesus fulfills. If we were to look at all the roles given to Israel, that's really what he tells them is he came and fulfilled them all. And we could talk for 10 minutes on how he fulfilled the role of king. He came from the line of David, right? He fulfilled the role of the prophet who spoke with authority. Remember, that's what people said about him all the time. He doesn't speak like one of the other teachers. He speaks as one who has authority. And then, obviously, the role of the priest, he offered to sacrifice himself. So he fulfills those, not modern-day preachers.
Did they trace? Haven't they traced some of Mary's line to a priest? Am I wrong on that thinking?
I don't know.
Okay. I
might be wrong.
I might be wrong.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Let's see.
Sorry, I derailed it.
Well, there may be, because Elizabeth, who John is his cousin.
Yeah,
Elizabeth.
That's yes, that's what it is.
Elizabeth's Zachariah, isn't that her husband? Yep. And he is a priest, and he was offering sacrifice. So there may be connections there too.
I thought there was.
Yeah.
I thought he had each of the three covered.
He does. He does.
But two of them from genealogy, and then the other one obviously because of who he is. But.
Yeah. Which is, I think, I'm not saying don't put a preacher to the test. Like, please don't hear me saying that. But I think the test of the preacher is not Not. I mean, it is good and bad fruit, but they don't get up and say God said something new. God said some new revelation.
Right, yeah.
It's just if they say God said something and it's brand new and you've never heard it before,
Yeah, he must have just had a bad preacher in there.
Run.
And none of the actual translations that are decent, actually good, does it mention priests or prophets or anything. It just says everyone. Mm-hmm. Everyone implies you, me, person down the street.
Yeah, everyone.
There's no delineation.
Bears fruit. Yeah, everyone bears fruit.
Yeah.
So,
again, we threw out the message.
All right. Sorry.
But he does put the master portion into pretty good context.
He does a really good job on that one. I like even the last words that he uses on that one, where he says, "You didn't impress me. You don't impress me one bit." That's I think that was a very good way to put that to help us think through it. So, any other summary parts, like, if you were to put Jesus' words into your own language, would any other outside of things that Eugene Peterson said, what would you?
Well, I think
summarize.
And I think you hit on it pretty hard on the sermon. What is fruit, and how do we define fruit? And you kind of described it as humility is the easiest way to see it and describe it. This is not summarizing, but Galatians 5 talks about it too. But I'll read that and then I'll tell you that I kind of find it interesting that the first part of Matthew 7 is one thing, and then we get something different here. But so Galatians 5 kind of expands on the idea of what good fruit is. And so we're in Galatians 5. You could just read all the way from 16 on, but I'll just read from 19 on. Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, I don't even know what that is, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. I warn you, as I warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. So one of those things that it's being described as pretty clear, black and white sort of stuff. But
I think I'm trying to go through. I think the NLT translates the word enmity as the word hostility.
Okay.
Making an enemy of.
The state of feeling being actively opposed or hostile to someone.
Yeah.
Something interesting I hadn't noticed till I was reading it, or was saying it aloud. Reading it's always different than speaking sometimes, but Paul mentions more things that are bad fruits than he does things that are good fruits.
Never noticed. One of the things I notice about Galatians 5 is he says, this is the fruit of the Spirit. This is not the fruits of the Spirit. And I wonder how many times we always think this is the fruits of the Spirit, and it's like I'm not exemplifying love, and it's like, well, you got to remember this is the singular fruit of the Spirit. Even though he mentions multiple attributes, this is singular fruit.
Yeah, because when he talks about the bad fruits, it is actual. He says, now the works.
Oh, wow.
Assuming of course we haven't checked the Greek, but.
It probably is. It probably is multiple versus singular. Wow.
Anyway.
Wow. And he also says there's no law against such things.
Right.
Because he's part of what Galatians is for the believers to pick the freedom that comes through Christ and not to submit willingly under the law again, right? That's why he wrote this letter. And so,
it isn't quite close here, but he says, and those who belong to Jesus Christ have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. That doesn't mean we don't have passions and desires. It just means that our passions and desires are centered differently, and because they're centered differently, then we actually belong.
Yeah. I use the example of pride and humility to kind of highlight that we always think of like extreme bad when we think about bad fruit. Yeah. And all I was saying was, maybe a bad we don't even think about could be the worst bad.
Right. Well, and pride and humility is probably one of the roots of all this, right? Mm-hmm. Pride will typically lead me to, sexual immorality, or it'll lead me to being drunk. It'll lead me to being jealous and fits of anger and those sort of things. Whereas humility, we don't care about those things.
Yeah.
We're just glad to have woke up today, right? That's kind of the idea there.
Yeah. So I would just add, the reason why I went with pride, again, is just interpreting Jesus from other viewpoints.
Right.
One of the viewpoints that I read this week myself was I read that parable where he talks about the Pharisee and the tax collector, and you hear it pretty clearly there. And then on Friday night, I was at a men's event with my dad, and the preacher got up and preached one with no notes whatsoever, and I was like blown away. I went up to him afterwards, like, "Where are your notes?" And he showed me, and he literally had like 7 or 8 lines written down. But he didn't, and they were written down on a piece of paper that was in his Bible, but he didn't even really open his Bible. I mean, he quoted like so much of the scripture. I was blown away. Anyway, we'll get off of that. But he read and preached Luke 15, the 2 sons. And so here I am, I'm like listening through the lens of these 2 trees and listening through the lens of these 2 doors and 2 pathways. And I'm just hearing Jesus saying the same thing, even in that parable, that one son squandered but was repentant, and the other son didn't squander but wasn't repentant. Yeah. And I hear pride versus humility. So, I mean, that's not really a fair way to interpret the Bible, but I did Friday when I was listening. I wrote down so many notes and was like connecting dots. I didn't preach all of them, but.
Well, you want to connect them now, or?
No. Well, I'll just give this one, okay? I don't think I gave it in a lot of detail, but Jesus uses 3 parables in a row in Luke 15. One is there is a shepherd who has 100 sheep and one walks away, and he goes and finds it. He seeks it, and he comes back and rejoices. The second is a woman who loses one of her 10 coins, and she finds it. She goes and looks for it, finds it, and brings it back and rejoices. And one of the things it says, in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in the presence of the angels in heaven when one sinner repents of their sins. Yeah. Essentially, that's a misquote, but kind of a quote. And then the third one of the parable of the 2 sons, it's a lot harder to see where the seeking is. And I never noticed it until Friday when this preacher said it. And he said the seeking was not the son who came back home, but the son who was still outside. And the father left the party to go find him.
That portion of it is, there's twofold there, right? Jesus would have, I don't know if you knew this, I don't know if he would have talked about it, but in Jewish culture, when you've been kicked out and come back, the town, if they get to you first, did he talk about this?
No. Yes, okay. He did a little bit, but I know about it as well. But go ahead, keep going. Yeah,
so if the town catches you coming back, if they get to you first, they banish you forever. Mm-hmm. And so that's what the Father is doing, is he's getting there before everybody else can say, no, you're not good enough. And he's telling them you're good enough. And so the townspeople have to back. That's kind of one of the cool things about it. Mm-hmm. But so many people, like you said, focus on the son returning, and they don't focus on the son that was there.
Yeah. It says, literally the parable starts with, there was a man who had
2 sons.
Not just one son, he had two sons. But you do hear the Father's will in that parable, which is important to our passage, even the one we read on Sunday, because Jesus talked about the Father's will. And the Father's will is that no one would perish, that everyone would come to eternal life through Jesus Christ, that everyone would be repentant of their sin, even those who have pride. Like, I mean, if you heard that sermon and you're like, man, pride is like the fruit of my life, I got good news for you. The invitation was open to that older son who that's what his was. Mm-hmm. And it left it like there was no like bookend. There was no like, this is how the story ends. It just cut off. Yeah. And the question was, what did that older son do? Did he go inside and party or not? Yeah. I think that, I literally was like, okay, here's the two options. Again, like I'm seeing it again. Yeah.
Well, all right, so question for you.
Okay.
Because we could go on about some of this stuff for a long time. In 7, we start off Matthew 7 by judging others. What did Jesus just tell us to do?
To know someone by their fruit.
Which is a way of discerning who they are and in some ways judging them. So if you didn't catch that part, let's talk about how we reconcile the differences here.
Oh, okay.
And here's how I would start it out from a non-biblical perspective.
Right,
how's that? Well, I guess it's biblical perspective, but looking at it from a world's view, I wouldn't just go outside and hire some random person to do my taxes.
Okay.
I'm going to figure out who should properly be doing them, and that's who I'm going to choose. I'm going to interview and figure out who that person is first before I make them the person who will control how I report stuff to the government.
Okay. I would think that you should consider that where Jesus says this person is. So he says they are false prophets. Okay. And so you then get the idea that this person is a believer, is a part of the community of God.
You're applying the delineation there.
And
between,
so I would.
The person on the side of the street and the person who comes to church.
I would. And not because we don't love the person in the street, because we do love the person on the side of the street that we don't know where they're at, but it's not our job to hold them accountable for anything. If they've not come to Christ and put themselves under Him, like why would we expect them to listen to Him? Like our job in that moment is to help them see Him and to put their life in His, and that would be our responsibility. But like with you and me, like if you see that there's like, you just pulled that fruit off of my tree and that was a bitter fruit, your responsibility to me is to be like, what in the world? What's going on here? Let's talk about this. You say, God says, you say you are under Him and in His kingdom and in His will. Like, why is that fruit there? So I would say judgment is a part of the body of Christ, and accountability is a part of the body of Christ, not for mine and your benefit, but for God's benefit and for the benefit of His church. With this, judgment doesn't mean condemnation. Right. Which we tend to like draw that gap real fast. Yeah. We tend to jump ship and go straight to condemnation, and it's like, well, that's not your place either. Yeah. That's God's place on the final day. We'll meet Him there, and that'll be where He sits.
Let me ask you a farming question, and it'll tie into this. Because you all plant, so I don't know what kind of stuff y'all plant. But if you like plant an apple tree, when do the bad fruits fall? Because not even in nature, even a very healthy tree sometimes will have bad fruit, right? When does the bad fruit come off? Before it ever gets to the point of becoming pickable? Or does it stay on until it has to be picked off? Does that make sense? So I guess the question is, if I have an apple tree and it produces the apples, do the bad apples fall off before the good apples are truly, until the apples are truly able to be picked? Does that make sense? So, is there any, I don't know, is there any truth?
I can't answer it. I don't know. I know how the apple tree in my parents' yard works. I mean, and maybe some trees that are in your yard work, but I don't know how the regular fruit works. I really think it's interesting, this question you just asked, because a fruit that's too young is also not good.
Right.
Like you go to my parents' apple tree and you literally go and pick one of those little tiny boogers, and them things are disgusting. They are like, they'll make your stomach sick.
Yeah.
Like that's how bad they are. And so it takes this like window of time when they've been on the tree long enough. But then when they fall, you can tell parts of them are like rotten. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know how much correlation between the two.
How much of that's tied to the insects and stuff like that, eating out the good pieces, right? I guess part of what I was getting after is, at least in our lives, we can be a healthy tree and still produce bad fruits on occasion, right? But the key to being an unhealthy tree is that the bad fruit is when you got one, it eventually turns into more, right? But if we have bad fruit in our lives and it doesn't stay long enough, it doesn't infect the whole tree.
I would argue. So I was kind of
getting after, if sin should be fleeting and momentary, not consistent.
I think that's a great approach to it. I mean, because that would be the question: is what is fruit?
Right.
Fruit is, in my mind, long term.
Right.
Fruit is not a one time.
Yeah.
Fruit is, okay, this is consistently when you go to Brandon or Justin or whoever's listening right now, if you consistently go to them over and over and over again. Fruit is the process of the long term. That's what I would say.
Well, I think part of the reason, I guess the judging part was there, is don't judge a book by its cover, but then also here you judge it by its cover.
Well, and who are you judging?
Right.
I mean, you do need to discern. If you're sitting under someone's teaching, like you need to discern, like you need to use, like please use discernment. If you're being discipled by someone, you have to use discernment on if that is the way of Jesus. Like, one of the things Paul said, and he says, follow me as I follow Christ. And so, is that person that I'm following, are they following Christ? So I do think it's a great question.
Yeah.
Which, if you go back and reread the beginning of chapter 7, may make you rethink the don't judge.
Yeah.
So,
I tell you the other thing I like that I didn't really realize until we were reading, and it just hit me. But every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So I almost wonder, at some level, do we have multiple trees inside of us? And what Jesus is saying here is that when you have the tree come up that has the bad fruit, throw it away. He's kind of given a twofold here. Is sometimes we just bought some land, and we were out there in April, and it was an apple tree, and it had all the pretty white flowers and all that sort of stuff. And so we went over there and looked at it, and it's not one tree; it's like 3 or 4 different trees. So sometimes plants can be 3 or 4 different root systems, or 3 or 4 different things exposed, but still be part of that same tree. So I almost wonder if he's kind of alluding to that fact, plus the fact of if you are just a bad root system, it has to be gotten rid of.
I think that interpretation would fit with John 15. He says, "I am the vine, and my Father is the gardener," and he goes into depth about what he means there, and he does talk about pruning and even you and I being pruned.
Right.
When we have branches that aren't bearing good fruit, like God will prune us, and that's part of God's grace to us, is to correct our behavior and to mold us into the type of tree he wants us to be. So, yeah, I would think that's probably a good way to think about it. I think that, you also have to just keep the big in mind too, right? The big parts. As you go down into the weeds, always keep the forest available to the thought process. And I think when you look at the big and you keep putting all the pieces together, I really do think Jesus is talking about self-righteousness versus his righteousness, All right. Well, we kind of talked about what we liked. That wasn't fair, was it?
No, well, I mean, there's a lot to like.
Yeah. Do you have more?
Oh, well, probably. A question for you. Okay. I didn't fully research this before, but I was this is just from growing up, sort of. I was always under the impression that Jesus only uses the word "I am" like 7 or 10 different times.
Okay.
I think you mentioned that is this an "I am" that he's using here, or so?
No, I think what you're referring to is from the book of John. They're mostly from the book of John.
Yeah.
I think they're all from the book of John, and he does do 7, and it's a flow of the book of John. I am the bread. I am the bread of life. I am the living water. I am the way, the truth, the life. I am the resurrection. I am. There's so many. I think it is all from John.
Let's see. I'll just pull it up. I'm sorry. That's a little slight derail, but I was just curious of I guess the differences there, because I think you had mentioned that the Greek in this particular would have kind of referenced it as that similar.
Okay. Yeah. So no, when in John, I got you. We're on the same way. The question you're asking is, in the Greek, they're using the word kurios rather than the word theos.
Okay.
Theos would have been more generic way to refer to God. Kurios was kind of like the Greeks' way of like using the covenantal name. Now, in the book of John, when Jesus says, I am the bread of life, he uses "ami," ego "ami," which is not the same words.
Okay.
So it would be like you and I saying "I am" rather than Yahweh. So he does say "ego ami," "ego ami," so however you say it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay. I was just sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was just curious because I was remembering that "I am" is used very specifically somewhere to highlight that he is Yahweh rather than being separate. But
well, anybody in there, I mean, I'm sure there's probably examples of Paul saying exactly those same words, the "I am" type words. But the significance of them, especially in the book of John, is what is paired with them. It pairs attributes of God with them.
Gotcha.
Now, that doesn't mean that kurios still does stand differently than theos in this section. It is more covenantal type. It's going from a big circle God, like a lot of people in our world would say, quote unquote, God exists. That would be the word they would use. God exists, but they're never really willing to label it into a smaller circle of, okay, it is this God. So theos is like the big circle God. Kurios is like, no, he is over my life. Like he is the one.
Gotcha.
Essentially the difference between the two. And that's what they say, kurios. He is the one over my life. I fear him. He is the Lord. Okay. Rather than just being some God somewhere.
Okay.
Make sense?
It does. Yeah.
It is not technically Yahweh.
Okay.
But it is more covenantal
than
in nature than the normal one.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Does the Greek and I don't want to get too much in the Greek, but
No, please don't.
Does the Greek here use the kurios twice?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. It is doubled.
I find that fascinating in the context of the doubling we've been talking about.
Yeah. If you didn't listen to the sermon, this is like our point to just say, go listen to the sermon. We're not going to rehash everything in it, but you should go listen to it. Yeah. Because these things that's what I liked, was these things that Jesus is saying is probably even things that like people who would claim to be Christians would hang their hat on. I believe he is Lord of my life. I have emotional connection with him. I have Christian activities. And yet Jesus still says, I never knew you.
Yeah.
Which I always think is interesting. It's like... I
don't think it's accidental this comes after there's two gates.
Definitely not accidental.
I think that probably bears some credence to Jesus talking about here. The gates are not just the differences between a believer or person sitting in church versus the person not sitting in church. He's also talking about the person sitting next to you in church.
Yeah. That it can be. It can be.
Yeah. And we've all known people like that.
We have.
And the terrible thing is they ruin everything that is tied to what the Bible is. They give the world a distaste for the true meaning of the Gospels.
Well, let's be confession moment. The reason why I know the fruit of pride and what it looks like so well is because that is one of my biggest areas of like, I do have a pride problem. Like let's don't beat around the bush on it. Like if I were left to my nature, I would be like, I never do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And it's your fault. It's because you're a horrible person. So, yeah. Anyway, challenging part. I would say that's probably part of the challenging part for me is I don't hardly ever really think about other people's fruits on their trees because I ain't trusting their trees anyway. The fruits I'm always is like, man, my own fruits and the things that come off of my tree.
I don't think this is Jesus trying to tell us to go burn down somebody else's tree.
Yeah.
Right. He gets to that later in some other places, but not this particular time. I think he's trying to point us inward to our own trees. And the challenging thing here is as you described, of not letting the bad portions of our lives be what controls us.
And have I humbled myself in a way in which to enter in through the gate of Jesus where he's the one who handles the bad portions of me rather than me handling the bad portions of me?
Right.
Or am I just walking through religious pride and self-righteousness and pretending like it is the other?
Right. I can't remember which older preacher it was, but talking about the end of times. And Jesus talks about, in hell there will be the gnashing of teeth and weeping, right? I don't know who it was, but he said, if I have fooled myself long enough, I know which one I'm going to be. I'm not going to be the one gnashing my teeth. I'm going to be the one weeping because I knew better.
Oh, wow.
I never heard it put that way, but I think all of us have that. Unless I'm just wrong and I'm the only one. But all of us have that wonder, where our intentions truly lie. It's not always for the benefit of him. Sometimes we do things and it's for our benefit, and it creates doubt and worry and wondering whether our fruits or our fruit is what it's supposed to be. I don't know if I'm alone with that, so if I am, you can delete that part of the podcast.
No, you're not.
But you know what I'm saying. I think you were just talking about a little bit. If if you were left to your own devices, i.e., you were not centered in Him, this is what you would be.
Literally. I mean,
and I'm the same way. I'm not arrogant, but I'm very self-confident in who I am and my abilities, and that's always a fine line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I even say sometimes it's my way or the highway. I say that to people because I literally think I know what's best. And so
I don't go quite that far.
Well,
I've always held the opinion.
Wondering if I said it last week or not.
My philosophy has always been, I hold strong opinions. I have strong opinions held loosely. So my opinions can be changed, but you got to prove it to me. Otherwise, it is my way or the highway.
Yeah.
And I think everybody probably struggles with this, is sometimes the way we are with the outside world is different than who we are at home. I mean, we're probably more prideful at home than we often are in to the world. That was the part that hit me the most with this, is that I don't think I have pride in my life with you or pride in my life with my job or anything like that, but sometimes I do in my own household. I'm not as humble as I should be.
Well, I think that you might not be as prideful as you think. Have you ever apologized to your kids?
Oh, yes.
Dude, that takes a
not as much as I should. Not as much as I should.
Well, probably none of us, but to do that, it takes a huge amount of humility. You have to, as the old country saying goes, you have to eat crow. Isn't that what the saying is?
Yeah.
Like you really have to be like, oh man, I don't want to apologize to my kid. Like that, when I do something mean and I'm snappy or quick to do something, I don't want to go back and apologize. I'd rather I'll just be quiet for 5 or 6 days until you get over it.
Yeah.
But then you start to really think about it, and it's like, man, Jesus, okay.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
So if you've done that once, I mean, it demonstrates a fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah, I guess you know what I mean. Like,
I do.
I feel like when you're,
people we know best
tend to get the worst of us.
They do. We're more safe with them. We're more comfortable with them. They tend to get the worst.
Yeah.
Just ask my wife. She would tell you.
So would mine.
This is not your, Cindy, this is not your permission slip. All right. I think one of the things I also like, so we don't move on yet, I have seen this work out in people's lives. I've seen this exact example of humbling yourself, just working out in general, outside of someone choosing Christ. I've watched them humble themselves in a court system once. I was invited to go to a court hearing. It was civil matter, and it was like 3 or 4 times in a row. And I went every time. And the first couple of times, the person just so pridefully, so without any humility or repentance for things they had done wrong, just was fighting the battle.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which time it was, but it was like the 3rd time there was something different. And they just came in and they just laid it out on the table. Here's what I did wrong, and looked at the other person and said, I'm sorry. And literally overnight, it just evaporated. Oh, yeah. And it was nothing anymore, and things seemed to start working out. And it was like, that principle, those who humble themselves will be exalted, it played out in reality. I watched it play out in reality. Yeah. So that's one of the things I like about this too, is that humbling yourself it doesn't mean you always kick yourselves in the dirt, right? When you humble yourselves beside God, He makes you His child. That is exalting you and your position. So, all right. Well, you learn about God and people.
God, that He views us in the black and white because He has to. he views us as either good or bad. There is no in between.
Yeah. And we all are lawbreakers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you've broken one of them, you broke them all. Go read the book of James. That's what he says. I mean,
well, and you got to think that at some level, what God is trying to communicate here is, I guess depends upon whether you think there's degrees of punishment in hell. But, it's almost like if you say you follow me, but you're truly a wolf, then your consequences are worse than the person who never believed.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
You kind of saw that with Jerusalem, right? What was their punishment? I mean, the Israelites are God's chosen people from now until the end. I mean, it just is what it is, right? But what did he do to the Israelites after they crucified Jesus?
Oh, I mean,
destroyed the temple.
They don't get a temple.
Destroyed the city.
Yeah.
It took them 1,900 years to get it back.
Yeah. I want to encourage you, based on what you just said. I want you to go read Romans chapter 11 for me. Not. No, I can't read it right now. Write it down.
No, yeah.
Because I'm not sure. Because I personally believe that we're grafted into that tree of the chosen people.
Oh, we are now. Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
so you would agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Before Jesus, no. After Jesus, we are grafted to the same, as you said, grafted to the same tree.
Yeah.
But
I just didn't.
Still,
I kind of heard exclusion. I
gotcha.
didn't want anyone else to hear that we weren't.
We as long as you believe that Jesus died. I mean, let's be clear. Just because you're Jew doesn't mean you go to heaven.
Right.
There's only one way.
Yeah.
Although I wonder what is it like to be a Messianic Jew. You get the doubling of there. I think even I think Revelation talks about there's going to be a moment where all of Israel that is alive at the time is going to see the light. Anyway, but
yeah. Well, I would argue if you read Romans 11, it's like that might be what ushers in the second coming. How much more?
Oh,
he says.
I think exactly. I think that's the last thing.
He says if you and I as Gentiles are blessed by Israel's unbelief, how much more are we blessed by their belief? So that's a powerful statement in the Bible.
Yeah.
Romans 11. Anyway, so anything else about God?
No, but I just thought that was interesting here. It feels like what he's trying to communicate is that he's going to persecute, and that's why I pointed out the Israelites, because he did, right? Israel killed Jesus, and he knew it was going to happen, but they still did it. And his response was, "Here's my wrath." And I think that we're the same boat now, right? We have the signs, we have the readings, we have the teachings, and if we still don't have our fruits be healthy and good, and we choose to be bad but say that we're not, what if he did that to Israel? What is he going to do to them?
He said he would say something like, "It'd be better for Sodom and Gomorrah on that day than it will be for you." I think about God, one of the things we see in his nature through this is Jesus again calls him Father. We see that love of the invitation into his family. We see that inclusion. And that he's not even just Kyrios, right? Kyrios is he's the Lord, but he's even more closely related to us and desires more. That's why he's called Father again. I think that's interesting how Jesus does both of those things. They call him Lord, like he's the master, and then he's like, but he's a father. You might have missed some of it too.
Ooh, all right.
Okay.
All right. As you were talking there, I went back and reread it again. So reading the CSB, I don't know, we might have to look at the Greek, but CSB we've talked about it on the first podcast, but not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. If the Greek would translate over, is he suggesting that he's the only one that actually is this part of what he's trying to say? Is I'm the only reason you get to go?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, because that's the will of the Father.
Yeah, but he's the only.
That's
one
what the Father.
He's the only one
wants.
truly doing the will of the Father.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
the rest of us are lawbreakers. So what do you learn about people?
You go first. I had something and that distracted me, so I'll come back.
I always want to be like, people are horrible.
Well, I think all of the Sermon on the Mount is about that, as far as people left to their own devices are not good people.
Yeah. I think you learn about people is just watch. You don't have to determine if someone is or isn't what they say they are. Just watch them. Yeah. They'll show you. Might be after they tell you, but they'll show you one.
So here's what I learned about people.
Okay.
That in order to actually know what the fruits are, you have to know them. Right. So the only way you know whether a tree is healthy or not is if you're with it on a regular basis. Like our apple trees that we have in the yard, we're not with it on a regular basis, so we don't really know whether it's good or bad. We just know, hey, there's some apples, right? Yeah. We're not doing the work that is required to know whether it's good or bad. I think that's what I learned about people here, is that in order to do it, you have to be involved.
Which would go more to the, if you're involved in someone's life, especially if you're choosing to follow Jesus, they probably have chose that as well, and that gives you a position to talk to them and to hold accountable and to look at the fruit of their life. Yeah. Anything else we got? Are we good?
I don't think so, unless you had something else.
Nope. We need some more questions, y'all. We like a good question or two. So
let's do a little teaser. How's that?
Okay, tease them.
What's after next week?
Oh, great googly moogly. Why did you have to ask that? You would think I have my plan.
Because I'm assuming this next week is the end of the Sermon on the Mount.
Next week is the end. So I don't have my plan. I'm not like, I have.
The Hufflepuff comes through.
I had what I was going to do, because what I was going to do was take every thought captive and do that for 3 or 4 weeks. But then this sermon just kept going longer and longer and longer. And so now I've hit the summer, and I just wonder what we're going to do.
Okay.
Hey, there's a possibility. I was messaging back and forth with Jonah this morning, because I kind of like the idea of lining up, doing something more teen-oriented and something more kid-oriented during the summer. And what Jonah sent me was called Lemonade, based on Forrest Frank. Mm-hmm. And 3 of the sermons were like Forrest Frank's sermons, like Good Day, or Forrest Frank's song, and just having a sermon based off of it. Yeah. And I really liked it.
Okay.
The kids ministry stuff that was sent to me, it was about parables, and we've done parables before, and I'm like, I don't know that we're going to do that, because 2 of the parables that was in it, I mean, I can remember preaching it like last year, so it's like, I don't think we can do that. So I don't know. It probably will be Lemonade. Just be ready. It's to be all based on Forrest Frank songs, and obviously it'll be passages around that. Yeah. Well, I like
fruit of your life, right?
Yes. Now I like what's called exegetical sermons, as far as any individual sermon I have. You probably notice I probably stick within the passage quite a bit. Mm-hmm. I like exegetical sermon series too, of like, we're just going to the next part of what the Bible says.
Oh, so going like Matthew 8.
Like I love, yes. I love preaching the Sermon on the Mount, because we're just right in through the next thing. I don't know that's not what we'll do. We'll do some kind of sermon series.
Well, if you did that, I mean, I think it'd be pretty cool that Matthew 8, the first first parts of it are cleaning a leper, and then essentially the saving of somebody who should never be a believer. In the centurion. So there's some cool aspects to that afterwards. But I'm not trying to push you one way. But
let me ask you this question, because I was thinking about doing something a little bit different, and I was thinking, and maybe I'm not going to ask you a question. I'll just let it sit for a second. I was thinking about not preaching not this Sunday, but the Sunday after, and just reading the whole Sermon on the Mount as a way to close it. I don't know. I doubt that happens, but
the question is not that. The question is, could you read 5 through 7 and not add bits and pieces to it?
Probably not.
Right? Because it's like as you're getting in it, you're like, something comes to you. And
like, y'all remember?
And I think, isn't that Sunday? That's the Invitation Sunday?
No.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I was going to say, I don't know if you want to have like people invited and Justin's.
Yeah, just reading.
You've seen those memes, right? It's like, I got them to come to church. We're talking about giving. Or we're talking about damnation to hell.
Yeah. It'll probably be, the next one's going to be, it'll probably be the lemonade one.
Okay.
Because I loved it as soon as I saw it.
Sure.
But then, so then I'm saving the take every thought captive for pushing us into the fall.
Okay.
So as soon as we enter into the fall. This is what I was working on, was just ideas of what I could preach over the summer. You ready to hear some of them? The top one's Jesus making lemonade.
Yeah.
I mean, even before Jonah sent that to me, I was like, I would love to do that. I thought about preaching a sermon series on baptism. I don't know that we've done that in a while. Apologetics, like proof of what we believe. Maybe even going back to the Old Testament, doing Gideon.
Okay, yeah.
And so those, and then I thought about this, taking some of the questions that were asked on the podcast and preaching sermons on them.
Ooh.
And doing it that way. So,
yeah.
And then the other one, and I know people in the audience are going to be like, they're going to come and they're going to say, you need to do that one. But I don't know. Even if you say I need to do it, I'm not sure I will. But talking about the end times.
Okay.
So I don't know where I'm going. I'm literally trying to figure it out this week.
I think the end times are important, right? I think it's often preached improperly. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I think it's preached improperly in that it's made to make us afraid. And that's not the point of the second coming of Jesus. It's just to be ready and be excited for it. There's a difference, I think. Yeah. But personally, the lemonade's probably not a bad one. Because you could go through multiple things where something was bad that Jesus turned into good.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you could probably preach all summer on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's probably where I will go, at least for a 3-week period.
Well, I'll tell you, the way that song was created was just out of pure irony.
Oh, was it?
Oh, you didn't know this? Mm-mm. So the Figs, they're just they're essentially like 2 youth group guys out in Indiana or something like that. And they're pretty much youth camp directors. That's all they do. Okay. So they're those kind of, they're young.
I know
they
the
got
type.
time. Yeah. And occasionally they make music where it's like a satire where they'll say, we're going to make songs like so-and-so or song like so-and-so. And so they started that, and Forrest Frank saw it and said, oh, this is brilliant. And that's how they created the song.
So they were like making a parody of Forrest Frank, and then they made that's the song.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny! I had no idea.
Yep.
No idea.
Yeah.
I loved it for a long time. I was listening to is that one.
Yeah.
So
the one I've had on, I try to every so often you come across, since we're talking about songs, and this probably should have gone at the first part, but not the end of the podcast. But occasionally you come across a song, and for me, I try to make it if I'm not listening to a podcast or whatever it is, then that's kind of what I make the centerpiece of. I try to ingrain it in my system. So a couple of years ago, it was remind me. Jason Gray has a song where it's like, doesn't matter why it happened, just remind me you're here. So it's a very good message and about doesn't matter what bad things happen, he's still there with you, sort of thing. So every time I mowed, it was the first thing that I listened to. Right now, it's a song, I sent it to you, by Alexander Pappas, or Pappas, I don't know how to say his last name, but It's Always Been Jesus. So I think you got these songs, and I think that's the point of music sometimes, is just to give us this subtle reminder of what we're trying to what fruits we're trying to generate.
Yeah. So that's probably where it'll go. Have we talked on the podcast about where I'm thinking about going in 2027?
We have not.
Have we talked about it in person?
We have.
Okay. So this is just throw out a little teaser for everybody on the podcast. Look, you get more information before everyone else. We're considering, and it's probably what we will do. But reading through the Bible together as a congregation, and the sermons each week go with a portion of the reading. Yeah. So,
well, that'll be fun to do on a podcast, and even a sermon, because you know, it's always been Jesus, and one of his. It's not just in the red letters; it's in everything I read, and there's so many ways you can point stuff from here to there that
Oh yeah.
Why was that included? Well, it was included so you saw this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to pray us out.
Let's go.
God our Father, we just come before you and give you thanks for everything, God, that you have given us. You are so good to us, allowing us to be a part of your kingdom, calling us your children. And so, God, we would just ask that you would be the gardener who would prune us. If there is fruit in our life, God, that is not of you and your will, would you prune it from us? And God, we just give you all of the honor and the glory, and pray, God, that our lives would be lives that would point to you, and that when people would be able to participate in our lives, that they would see your goodness and your fruit in our life. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Go choose Christ completely.